All right, so welcome everyone to our Navigating the Business Customer Gateway webinar. My name is Teresa Chang. I'm the Marketing Promotion Specialist here at Satori Software, and as well as today's moderator. Just a heads up, this webinar will be recorded and will be available on our website. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the questions box on your right. We'll try to get through as many of them as we can after the presentation, but if we don't get around to answering all of your questions, we'll make sure to follow up with you afterwards. So joining us today is Kim Locke, our Postal Product Specialist. Kim has a decade worth of experience in the postal industry and serves as the Intelligent Mail Specialist here at Satori Software. She has presented at MailCon, NPS, and many other educational forums. Welcome, Kim. For this session, Kim will give you a breakdown of the Business Customer Gateway portal, from creating a new user account to booking appointments through FAST. This is a great opportunity to learn how to manage all your mailing activities at a single source. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Kim to get the presentation started.
Thanks, Teresa. So today we're going to talk about the Business Customer Gateway, which is your way of being able to access all the information that the post office has about your mailings and also about your company account. So what we'll do here is first we're going to talk about what the Business Customer Gateway is, what you can use it for, and also how you can use it to your best advantage. We'll talk about how you'll go about creating your account on the Business Customer Gateway and finding that information that you're going to need in order to create your intelligent mail barcodes and also your electronic documentation for full service. We'll talk a little bit about the way that PostalOne and the Business Customer Gateway interact, because the gateway allows you to access all of your electronic postage statements, and also it allows you to book your mail drops. If you do drop shipping, you can schedule your mail drops online using the FAST system through the gateway. We'll talk a little bit about the intelligent mail reports that are available, and then of course we'll sum it up all at the end there. So first, let's take a look at what the Business Customer Gateway is. And basically what it is it's one central location for you to manage all of your mailing activity. So it used to be that there were quite a few separate websites that you would go to in order to manage your mailings online. You would go to the PostalOne website to check out your mailing reports and submit your eDoc. You would go to the FAST website to schedule your mail drops. You would go to another site to view your permit information, and yet another site to view all of your reports. And so it was a very disjointed world just a couple of years ago before the Business Customer Gateway was created. So actually the gateway was created as a centralized location, so you would have one login and you would be able to access all of these services at one time. Now, there are quite a few acronyms that you'll see as you go throughout the Business Customer Gateway, and the Post Office does love their acronyms, so we wanted to make sure you had a quick little legend here to know what all of these acronyms mean as a quick reference here. So the Gateway website, or the Business Customer Gateway, is sometimes called the BCG, just as a shorter version of that. When you log into the Business Customer Gateway, for each company there is going to be an administrator account, which is going to be the account that allows access for all the other users that are created for that company. And the administrator account is called the BSA, the Business Service Administrator. There are a couple identifying fields that you'll want to be familiar with as you're going throughout the gateway and also as you move towards full service. The first is the CRID, or the Customer Registration ID. A CRID is basically a number that represents your company to the post office at your location. So if you have 2 locations that you send mail from, then you would have 2 CRIDs, one for each location. And a separate number to that also identifies you as a company is the mailer ID. Now, mailer IDs are not a one-to-one relationship with CRIDs, and basically the mailer ID is used inside of your intelligent mail barcodes to identify your mail and also to link that back to your electronic documentation. The next acronym to be aware of is TEM, or the Test Environment for Mailers. And what that is that's a testing sandbox that allows you to test your electronic documentation before you start submitting it live into production. The next acronym is FAST, and this is called the Facility Access and Shipment Tracking System. FAST is a way for you to be able to schedule your mail drops off at the post office so that they know that your mail is coming. And then there's one more acronym here, and that's the CSA, or the Customer Supplier Agreements. And CSAs are an agreement that the post office has with first-class mailers that defines the way that they're sorting their mail. So now that we've got the alphabet soup out of the way here, let's talk a little bit more about the Business Customer Gateway itself. The gateway did just go through a very drastic redesign just in the past couple months here, and it's actually quite a bit easier to use. I've really enjoyed using this new layout for the Business Customer Gateway. Things are a lot easier to find. Everything's laid out in a way that's more clean, and it's just a little bit easier to use. There are a couple areas that are a little bit harder to manage, but for the most part, it's been a very, very positive change. Now, Business Customer Gateway accounts are free, and the way to sign up for the Business Customer Gateway is just to click that Register for Free link under the sign-in box. If you have already had a Business Customer Gateway account, your old login and password are still valid, so everything transitioned to the new Business Customer Gateway. Everything's still there. You don't have to touch it, but for customers who do have who haven't had an account, you can just click that Register for Free link, and then it'll prompt you to enter in all of this information that identifies you as both your login information and about your company. So here you'll enter a username, you'll enter a password. There'll be some security questions so that way you can retrieve your password should anything happen and you forget it, and then you'll identify your company information there as well. Now, the very first person who signs up for a Business Customer Gateway account at your location, so for your company, is going to be assigned those Business Service Administrator or the BSA role. And basically that means that that first person who logs into the Business Customer Gateway, who creates that account, is going to have the rights to be able to assign which services each other user can access. A couple other things that the new login process does for us is it's automatically going to assign your company a CRID. So you don't have to go in and request it anymore. You don't have to go and find it. When you first sign up for your account, it's going to show up right on that first screen there, and you can see my CRID is listed there. Also, when you create an account, so after I see this screen, it's going to ask me if I agree to the terms. And as soon as you agree to those terms, it's also going to assign a mailer ID. And the nice thing about this is actually going to assign it for you rather than you having to wait to get that mailer ID before you had to go in and request a mailer ID manually. So you'll see that listed on the second page after you've created your account there. Also below this mailer ID link, you'll see in that middle block where it says you can begin using these services. When you first create your account with the Business Customer Gateway, now it's automatically going to give you access to the most used services that most account holders are going to need. This is going to be things like electronic verification services, every door direct mail, your mailer ID. There's a service called Manage Mailing Activity, which is a way for you to go in and submit your electronic documentation. It's also going to assign you rights to the FAST service and some other package services as well. So you can also add any additional services that you'd like to access after you've created your account. Now, when you first create your account, and you've logged in, you're going to come to this nice welcome page. And you'll see on the left-hand side that everything's separated out into the different services. So the inbox is going to show you all the information about if someone had requested a service. So if you're the BSA and someone had asked to have access to the mailer ID service, for example, the inbox is where you can go and approve or deny that service for that user. In the Mailing Services tab, that's going to be all the services that apply to letter and flat size mailings. So that's going to be all the stuff around eDoc and scheduling your mail drops and everything along those lines is all going to be in the Mailing Services tab. The next tab is the Shipping Services tab. This is going to give you access to services like EBS and the Parcel Return Service. There are a couple of other services that are listed in the Other Services tab. The most commonly used service under Other Services is called Meteor, and that's a way for you to order your mail transportation equipment, or MTE. There's a link for support there. And then down at the bottom is a Manage Account link where you can go in. You can view your information. If you need to change your contact name or your email address, you can do that all through the Manage Account section there. Now, when you first go in to the Business Customer Gateway, you'll notice that there's this Favorite Services section on the right-hand side. And basically what that is this is a configurable list of the services that you use the most often. So I strongly recommend that the very first time you sign into the Business Customer Gateway, whether you have a new account or whether you have an account that you've had for a while, go in and actually edit the favorite services that you have listed here, because that's just going to show the ones that you use all the time. And I actually use this Favorite Services link on the right-hand side a whole lot more than I do the tabs on the left-hand side. So, so just go ahead and click on that, and you'll be able to actually set up all of the services that you use the most commonly. So, so I'll show you a list here. So here's a list of all the services that my account has access to at this point, and you can choose up to 7 that will actually display on your Favorite Services tab, and that tab is actually going to show in just about every screen in the Business Customer Gateway. So it's a really easy way for you to go in and access those services. Now, I do get a question of which services, if I'm not really familiar with these, which ones am I going to use the most often? So the ones that I think most mailers use is going to be, first of all, the dashboard, which is a way for you to view your mailings on PostalOne. There's electronic data exchange, and this is the way that you're going to be able to upload your electronic documentation to PostalOne. So, so I definitely have those selected all the time. You'll want access to your mailer ID service, so that way you can take a look at what your mailer IDs are, and if you need to, you can request more. I always like to have access to my mailing reports very close at hand. That's going to give me information about the mailings that I've already sent. So if there are any errors, I can go back and correct them, or at least think about that error the next time I process a list. The next one that I like to have access to is the online enrollment. This is a way for you to enroll in the new incentives that the post office is putting together. So for example, here in August, they're going to have a emerging technologies service that's going to allow you to get a discount on your mail if you put something like near-field communication or augmented reality on your mail piece. You can sign up for those services online. If you use the Postal Wizard to submit your electronic documentation, you can check that option. And then down at the bottom here, there's that option for scheduling a mailing appointment using FAST. And if you do use the FAST service, then you would want to have that as a favorite as well. So now let's talk a little bit about some numbers that you're going to need in order to complete your electronic documentation. And the two ones that you're going to be most concerned about is going to be your mailer ID and your CRID. So let's talk a little bit about the CRID. The CRID is also called your Customer Registration ID, and it's usually between 7 and 10 digits. It can also be up to 15 characters depending on when you created that CRID. And basically that CRID identifies your company's location to the post office. So if you have many business locations, you would have many CRIDs. Now the nice thing with this new Business Customer Gateway account is you can actually get that CRID as soon as you create that account, so you don't have to go in and request it. And basically what the CRID does is it identifies your company to the post office every time you're submitting a mailing using electronic documentation. Now, if you are using, if you're a mailing service provider and you are mailing for mail owners, then you do need to specify both yourself and your customers, and you can do that using a CRID account. So you would have to have a CRID both for yourself and for your customer. So let's take a look at how you would find your CRID. So the first thing you're going to do is from that very first page there, you can click that Manage Account tab at the bottom of the left-hand side there. Once you click on that Manage Account tab, it's going to bring up your account details. And right on that main tab here under Manage Profile, it's going to list your customer registration ID. So, so you'll see that right away. Now, if you have multiple locations and you're the business service administrator for your company, you'll see additional tabs across the top there. You've got where it says Manage Profile, Manage Preferences. You'll see additional tabs for Manage Users and Manage Locations. If you click on the Manage Locations tab, you'll be able to see all the CRIDs for all of your company locations there. So now let's talk a little bit about the mailer ID. So the mailer ID you will need in addition to your CRID, and the mailer ID is a 6 or 9-digit number that identifies you as the sender of the mail. And it's basically just used in your intelligent mail barcodes, and it links that barcode back to your electronic documentation. Now, you can use just about any mailer ID on the mail piece or on your trays or on your pallet barcodes. And what the mailer ID does is it takes that barcode and it links it to your postage statement, so the post office knows that piece is actually part of that postage statement and that it's been paid for. So let's take a look at how we're going to find the mailer ID on the Business Customer Gateway. So from the main side of the gateway here, one of the default favorites is going to be the mailer ID link. You can also access the mailer ID service from the Mailing Services tab on the left-hand side. So so you just click on that mailer ID link. And since your account is automatically going to have that mailer ID generated, you'll see a list of your mailer IDs right away. Now, if you don't have a mailer ID for some reason, or if you need to request additional services, here's where you would go in and you can select the location that you'd like to request a MID for, and you can also see which services are listed there. So now that we have our mailer ID and our CRID, the next step, of course, is going to be creating your postage statements electronically. And this is going to be required for full service, so you'll want to make sure that that you've got that process started here, because full service is going to be required starting in January. So the first thing to note is to learn a little bit about PostalOne. So PostalOne is basically a database of all the mailings that are currently in the USPS ecosystem. And right now, when you take your paper postage statements down to the post office, the clerks are going to enter in a bunch of the information from your postage statements into a computer. And basically what they're doing is they're entering that data directly into the PostalOne database. Now, in addition to that, you can use electronic documentation to send that information electronically, so the clerk doesn't have to retype that information, and also there's, of course, the chance for error if they do so. In addition to that, as a mailer, you have access to your permit information. You can take a look at your permit balances and any fees that might be applied to your account there. You can view all of your electronic postage statements online, and if you need to, you can cancel them. And you can also take a look at your mailing history, which gives you an idea of what you've been doing there, and you can see how your mailings have progressed over time. So let's talk a little bit about how you would go into PostalOne. So the main link that I use to access PostalOne is using that electronic data exchange link, and I added that to my services there. You can also access electronic data exchange from the Mailing Services tab. Another tab that you can use, or another service that you can use to access PostalOne, is to click on the dashboard. So once you click on that link there, it's going to bring you into the PostalOne website here. Now, if you want to take a look at all of the permits that are available for your company, you can click on the very bottom link on the left-hand side called Manage Permits, and then it'll show all of your business locations. And as soon as you click on one of your business locations, it's going to show you all of the permits that are associated with that location. So here I've got a number of permits that have been set up for this test account here, and I can take a look at them, make sure that they're listed correctly, and that the numbers are correct. Now, if you don't see your permit information listed here, you can click on the Permit Validation tab. So here on the next screen here, the Permit Validation tab is the one right in the middle. And as soon as you enter that, it allows you to enter in information about that permit, and it'll link it to your account. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is all of the permits are actually assigned at the local level, and sometimes they don't get entered into PostalOne correctly. And so this allows you to link that permit that you already have to your account if it's not there already. So the next thing that you'll want to do after you make sure that your permits are set up properly is start thinking about electronic documentation. Now, when you move to full service, there are going to be 3 different ways that you can submit your documentation electronically. You can use the Postal Wizard, you can use Mail.dat, or you can use Mail.XML. Now, the Postal Wizard is a pretty simplistic way of being able to satisfy the electronic documentation requirement, because basically the Postal Wizard is a way for you to type in just the information from your postage statement. So if you have a really simple mailing that's under 10,000 pieces, you'll be able to use the Postal Wizard to submit that electronically. However, if you mail over 10,000 pieces, then additional documentation is required. Of course, you'll need your qualification report and any of the other documentation that's required for that mailing. And the Postal Wizard doesn't support that. So you would need to upgrade to either Mail.dat or Mail.XML. Now, with Mail.dat and Mail.XML, they're basically a way of being able to format all the information about your mailing into a computer-readable format. So it's kind of like the Mail.dat file is like a database, and the Mail.XML file is basically that database broken out into different communications. So with Mail.dat and Mail.XML, you're basically taking that information and you're directly putting it into PostalOne. And of course, the post office is going to want to make sure that anything that you submit into PostalOne is going to be formatted correctly, and that the data is going to be correct, it's going to match your account, and also that you're not going to be uploading information that's going to mess with their database. So all the mailers who are using either of these technologies need to go through the TEM process, and that's called the Test Environment for Mailers. And basically it's a sandbox. It's a copy of the PostalOne database that allows you to submit that information, make sure everything's okay without actually sending a live mailing. Now, the TEM process has been very streamlined. We've talked about it in a couple other webinars as well, and we can talk about that in a later time, or you can access recordings of our webinars on our website. So let's talk a little bit about how you'll access TEM for eDoc there. So after you've gone into that electronic data exchange link, you'll be able to see a list of all of the environments for PostalOne. There's the production environment, where you'll submit your live mailings. There's pre-production, which is a testing sandbox for the next version of PostalOne. So as they do the upgrades to the database, they have a little preview of that in pre-production. And then also they have the test environment for mailers. So when you're ready to start doing your TEM testing, you'll go down to that test environment for mailers area there, and you can click the Go to TEM link. Or if you want to do Mail.dat, you can download the Mail.dat client application for TEM there as well. Now, once you've done the TEM testing and everything like that, if you are using Mail.dat, you will need to download a separate application to upload the Mail.dat files to production, which is going to be the live environment where you'll submit mailings that you actually want to pay for. So that's going to be available at the top of the electronic data exchange page. Now, after you've uploaded your information into either TEM or into production there, you'll want to take a look at your postage statements, making sure that everything's okay, and if you need to, you can actually make some minor corrections there as well. So what you'll do to access this is you'll click on the dashboard. So there's that dashboard link on the left-hand side, and then it'll allow you to search for your mailings. So you would just selected mailing date range. So you would click on one of those options there and click search. And once you've done that, then it'll show all of the postage statements or the mailing jobs that have been submitted via either Mail.dat, Mail.XML, or through the Postal Wizard. So you'll see a job ID field, and that'll be the job ID generated when you submit the Mail.dat or Mail.XML job. You'll also see a postage statement ID, and that's going to be the ID of that postage statement that the clerk is going to look up when they actually take your mailing in. Also, if you have any problems with your postage statement, so you can click on that postage statement to view it. If there was a problem, maybe your piece weight was wrong, or maybe it showed too many pieces or something like that, and you need to go back and you need to edit this, you can actually cancel that job directly from the dashboard here, and then you can do whatever changes you need to your electronic documentation before resubmitting it. Now that we've talked a little bit about postage statements, let's talk a little bit more about mail entry. Now, the way that you're going to submit your mailings if you drop ship your mail is you do need to schedule an appointment for that location. And the way you can do that is using the Facility Access and Shipment Tracking Service, or FAST. And basically, it's a website where you can go in and you can schedule those appointments right from the Business Customer Gateway. Now, if you are a dropship mailer, you will need to use the FAST system to schedule those appointments. You won't be able to call for an appointment anymore. You can set up a one-time appointment, or if you have a regular schedule, for example, if you drop mail every day at Tuesday at 3, you can set up a recurring appointment so that continues to happen over time. So the way to access this information from the Business Customer Gateway is to click on the FAST service. You can add that to your favorites, or it's also available in that Mailing Services tab. And once you click on that service, it's going to direct you into the FAST website. So here's where you can go. You can schedule a one-time appointment with that first go link. You can also set up recurring appointments using that link as well. So once you click on that link there for FAST, then what it's going to do is it's going to ask you to search for, so first it's going to ask you whether you're going to work with a new appointment or if you're managing an existing appointment. So we'll just go ahead and create a new appointment here. And once you've selected that option, it's going to ask you to search for the facility that you want to schedule the appointment for. So here you'll enter in your state, and you'll be able to see all of the facilities that are associated with that state. You'll enter in the mail class that you're dropping the mail for, and also your CRID information there as well. And it'll also ask you what type of a mail submission you're doing, whether you're doing mail on pallets or if you're doing a bedload entry or something like that. So I went ahead and did a search for a pallet submission here. And here at my local SCF, you'll see that there were quite a few appointments for the days that I want to take a look at here. And basically the hours that are listed here are basically the 24 hours of the day. So if you look at hour 14, that's actually 2 p.m. local time. So if I wanted to schedule, say, the 5 o'clock shipment for this afternoon, I could click on that link and secure that appointment. So the next piece of information that's really useful from the Business Customer Gateway is going to be the mailing reports. And basically what this is going to do is this is going to allow you to get all the information and all of the feedback that you will get from your full service mailings. So you can click on that Mailing Reports service if you've added it to your favorites, or it's also available in that Mailing Services tab. And once we click on that service, it's going to show us all of the reports that are available from your electronic documentation. So here you can see your mailing summary, you can see your mail quality reports. We're still not sure whether the tech credit is going to be activated yet. We're still waiting on the final say from the post office there. But once it is, then that report will be available here. There's quite a few reports that are available here. The one that I really want to point out here is going to be your mail quality reports, because this is going to be where you'll access your mailer scorecard. And the mailer scorecard is a way for you to, oh goodness, let's see if this is going to come up here. Basically what it'll do is it's going to allow you to see all the information from your full service mailings. I'm not sure why that's not showing up. Basically what it'll do is it's going to show you all the information for your full service mailings for the last month. and it's going to collate any of the errors that happened in any of those postage statements and any of those mailings. So if there were some barcodes that weren't unique, or if there was some missing by for information or something along those lines, then you'll see those in the mailing scorecard there, and you'll be able to collect those. And the reason I wanted to point out the mailer scorecard today, and I kind of wish I could show it to you, because that's it's actually a very useful tool, because that information is actually going to be used starting in July of 2014, because the post office is actually going to start assessing any of the full service errors that are happening in the active mailings. So that's going to be something that you'll want to monitor your progress with the mailer scorecard as soon as you start sending that full service mail, because if you do have errors that are over their thresholds, then they will start invoicing you for those errors. The amount of the fines and what the thresholds are have not yet been defined by the post office, but they're talking about being able to see those in the mailer scorecard and on PostalOne starting as soon as October. So we're hoping to get some insight into what those additional fines are going to be very soon. So the next thing, oh, here we go. There's the mailer scorecard. So here you'll see we've got a couple different locations here. We've got some information here as to how many pieces are actually meeting the threshold here, and of course anything that would be highlighted in red or that's below. I would say definitely look at anything that's below 95%. You want to make sure that everything's running pretty well here. So we'll see here we've got percent by for matching not in error. So basically they're saying that these are the things that had correct by for, but anything that's going to be missing that by for information, they are going to start assessing here next July. So you've got about a year or so to get that all sorted out. Here you'll also see piece barcode uniqueness not in error. So at 10%, that seems pretty low. So you might want to take a look at, if that number shows up, you might want to take a look at your barcode uniqueness and see if there's some overlap that's happening between your mailings. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and show you some resources that you'd probably want to take a look at here. The first, of course, is the Business Customer Gateway. You can access it for free at gateway.usps.com. Also, I want to talk a little bit about TEM vendor testing. So the TEM process for testing your electronic documentation used to be a very long and drawn-out process. It would take quite a few tests, and it would take quite a bit of time to be processed there. Now, the vendors and the post office have worked together pretty extensively to streamline this process. And basically what happened is the post office tested the software and verified that the software was putting the information into the correct fields and that the electronic documentation was filled out properly. Now, that doesn't take away all of the TEM-VEST testing that you'll need to do as a mailer. And basically what you'll need to do if you're using an approved software product, then you would only send one test, and basically it's the test that proves that you know where in your software to put things like your permit information and your contact and your CRID. And as long as you know how to use your software, then you'll pass that TEM testing. So the process that used to take anywhere from weeks to months is now taking on the order of hours to days. So we've had some customers be able to go through TEM from start to finish in as little as 45 minutes. So it's been a really good thing to have that TEM vendor testing. All the Satori software products are certified for that vendor testing program. So any of the users of our products are able to go through that streamlined process. As you're migrating over to full-service intelligent mail, definitely check out the RIBS website, ribbs.usps.gov. And in the intelligent mail section, there's a bunch of information about how to move to full service. And of course, we also have a link of how to get your mailer ID there in our Tech Notes section. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Teresa. We'll see if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Kim, for showing our attendees how easy and useful the BCG portal can be. Before we jump into Q&A, I would like to mention that our From Zero to eDoc in Plain English webinar is scheduled for August 7th. This is a great webinar to gain a better understanding of the basics of electronic documentation and to really know how to pick the right submission method that fits your mailing operation. So it looks like we have a bunch of great questions waiting in the queue. We'll try to get through as many of them as we can. If you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to contact our knowledgeable support team by phone or by email. Their information is listed on the screen in front of you. All right, let's get started with the questions. So the first question is, does every customer we mail, does every customer we mail to need a CRID number?
Yeah, if you are a mail service provider and you provide mailing services for other companies, so so if you're, for example, a mail house and it's all for one business, but there's different departments, then you won't need a CRID for each department. However, if you're a mail service provider and you provide services to outside companies, then you will need a CRID for every single customer. And this is something that I know has caused a little bit of strife for some of the mail service providers that are out there. However, the post office does have a streamlined way of being able to request both mailer IDs and CRIDs for your customers. And the way to do that is actually to create an Excel spreadsheet that contains the names and addresses of your customers. And you'll send an email to PostalOne@USPS.gov. And then the post office will actually take that information, create the MIDs and CRIDs for all of your customers, and then send back that Excel spreadsheet with those numbers appended to it. So it's a little bit still of a manual process, but you should be able to get that information back fairly shortly.
How do I know which type of eDoc to use? Do I use the Postal Wizard, Mail.dat, or Mail.XML?
So yeah, for that, I definitely recommend attending our webinar here in August, because we're going to go into that in really great detail as far as the benefits and different sides of that. Now, for the 2-minute version, the first question is what's your biggest mailing? So if you have any mailings that are over 10,000 pieces, you will not use the Postal Wizard for those mailings. I recommend just using one method for your eDoc. And then the next question is what does your software support? Some software only supports Mail.dat. Some software supports both Mail.dat and Mail.XML. Obviously, if your software only supports Mail.dat, then that's going to be a good option for you. If your software supports both Mail.dat and Mail.XML, then the question becomes, what do you do after you do your first sort through the product? Do you go through and make pretty extensive changes? Do you just change like the mailing date and the piece weight? But if you only do minor changes, then you can use Mail.XML. It's usually a pretty streamlined process. If you do some pretty major changes, like if you want to split your mailing across multiple days, or if you co-pallet, or if you want to do any type of pretty extensive editing after the fact, then you would use Mail.dat. Also, if you use any logistics providers or outside services like an MLOCR or a commingler, then you would also use Mail.dat for that.
All right. And you mentioned in your presentation about the tech credit. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's kind of a good question. So a bunch of mailers got a letter from the postmaster back in February saying that you're eligible for this tech credit pending approval from the Postal Regulatory Commission, or the PRC. Now, the post office submitted their proposal to the PRC, and unfortunately, the way they proposed that tech credit was basically saying, well, we'll give out this tech credit, and then next year we'll raise the rates to make up the difference in the cost. Now, the mailing industry, as you might imagine, wasn't entirely enthused about that second clause that hadn't been entirely explained, and so basically what happened is a lot of mailing associations had contacted the PRC and let them know that we like the tech credit, but we don't like this condition that means that our rates are going to be raised, and the way they were going to apply the rates. The rate difference there was a little bit weird. It was a little confusing, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So the PRC, when they were reviewing the tech credit, they actually took a look at it, and they decided that they liked the tech credit. They liked the idea of sending mailers a little bit of postage credit in order to make that switch over to full service. However, this whole idea of being able to raise rates kind of in a weird way didn't make sense to them at all. And so the PRC said, yes, you can do the tech credit, but you can't use it to increase rates next year. And so the post office right now is evaluating that statement to see how that's going to work with their financials. As you might imagine, right now the post office is not in the best financial position, so they really need to make sure that they count every penny. And so they're evaluating right now whether they are going to offer the tech credit. So right now we don't have a word yet as to where they're going with it. So it's still kind of in a limbo state, but I'm hoping we'll learn here what's going to happen in the next couple weeks.
Well, hopefully good things will happen. So another good question is, how important is it for my barcode that I mail with be unique?
For full service, it's required. So right now, you will need to have, for full service, you'll need to have a unique barcode on your mail pieces, your trays and sacks, and also your pallets if you use them. So each of those has its own barcode, and there's a sequence number in there that does need to stay unique for 45 days. Now, as I showed you in that mailing scorecard, they are tallying up the uniqueness. Now, right off the bat, right in January, they're not going to start charging mailers if that uniqueness isn't there. However, starting in July of next year, that's where they're going to start going back to mailers who are consistently not applying that, and they're consistently out of compliance with that, and they are going to charge them. What the fees are going to be has not been determined, but the current thought is that basically the amount of leeway, so you'll have to meet a certain percentage of uniqueness for your mailing, and what they're going to do is they're actually going to take the full service mailings that are out there in the world today, which is mostly the big mailers who are actually doing a really good job of uniqueness, and they're going to apply 2 standard deviations either side of the median of that, and as long as you're within that range or above the bottom of that range, then you'll be okay. But I expect that over time they're going to ramp it up and expect you to have more and more pieces in compliance. So it's very important that you have your sequence numbers stay unique.
Great. And you said that this presentation will be available on the website, right?
Yes. So we are recording the session today. We're going to have a copy of the recording and also a copy of the slides in a PowerPoint or in a PDF format posted on our website, and we usually get that up within about 48 hours.
Great. So it looks like that's kind of all the questions we have. I do want to encourage you, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in. If after the presentation, we'll try to get those answered. But so it looks like we have some time left, but don't have any questions at the moment. So I would like to note a couple of things before we wrap up. After the presentation, please take a few minutes to complete our short survey. Your feedback will help us improve the quality of our webinars going forward. And as a reminder, like Kim mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website shortly at www.satorisoftware.com. You can find this session along with many other sessions on our Archive Sessions page under the Learn section of our site. On behalf of Kim, Satori Software, and myself, Teresa, we hope that you have a great rest of the day, and thanks for joining our presentation.